Yo, are you at your wit's end with your own BS, procrastination, and time wasting? Are you looking to maybe kick down those walls of resistance, fear, perfectionism, and overthinking that are keeping you paralyzed and keeping you from your goals? Are you ready to start taking massive action toward the things that you want most in life? Well, if so, you are a lucky duck, because today I am kicking off a brand new series called the Rugged Productivity Series, where I'll teach you the dirty little productivity secrets that will get your butt off the couch and sprinting towards your goals at speeds that would make your mother gasp in alarm. And what's more, we'll be doing all of this without any sort of white knuckling or fake tough guy BS about eating nails for breakfast. In fact, once you get a feel for rugged productivity, you'll find that it is the most natural, effortless, and exciting form of productivity that exists. However, I do have a warning. Most productivity series out there are filled with multi-stage flow charts, over-the-top routines, and productivity tool chains and dashboards that require a PhD to understand. And I'm not going to do any of that stuff because, one, that stuff is lame, two, it's often not necessary, and three, can actually be quite counterproductive. How do I know? Well, for those of you new here, my name is Mark Quepit, and I'm a professional men's coach, and I've been paying my bills by helping guys change their habits and kick butt since 2013. But even more relevant to our current topic today, I used to be extraordinarily unproductive. In fact, I was almost a lost cause when I first started trying to work for myself. I could focus for a few minutes a day, and then I would spend the rest of my time jerking off, gaming, and getting high. Now, I'm literally as productive as I want to be, which is usually pretty damn productive. And in this rugged productivity series, I will lay out all the most important insights and tactics that I had to learn the hard way through painstaking trial and error so that you do not need to repeat my mistakes. And the topic of this video today is Rugged Productivity 101, the quick, dirty, and ugly guide to getting things done. You see, while everybody in the productivity space seems to be focused on the tactics and tools, your biggest productivity breakthrough is going to be found really in your mindset. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start things off by understanding the problem. You could be unproductive for any number of reasons, but one of the biggest and most pervasive ones would definitely be perfectionism. On a deep psychological level, perfectionism is the result of thinking that your outputs define you. And because of that, there is this feeling that what you do had better be perfect, or else you are not good enough. And it's this fear of not being good enough that forces you to try and walk the highly unproductive path of slow, clean, and pretty. Because since it's got to be perfect, you better slow down. You don't want to make a misstep. And since it's got to be perfect, you need the whole process to be cleanly and beautifully optimized with no wasted motions. And obviously, the end result better be nice and pretty, because anything less reflects poorly upon you in an unacceptable way. And even though slow, clean, and pretty might sound sort of nice in theory, the end result is that this kind of perfectionism causes you to never friggin' take consistent action and get stuff done. This perfectionism can show up in a ton of different ways. Maybe it's agonizing over what goal to pursue. Maybe it's trying to perfectly map out a future-proof strategy that you can follow now until forever. Maybe it's about holding yourself back to consistently refine and never shipping your work. Or maybe it's just fiddling with your tool chain and your to-do list constantly. Maybe it's actually just that you're so daunted by these perfectionistic expectations that you defeat yourself before you even start and then never do anything. So, what's the solution to this perfectionism? Well, if you can guess, it's ruggedness. You need to get rugged. While the perfectionist is busy fiddling with their meticulously organized tools and floundering in their vacuum-sealed hazmat suit, the rugged man has already been rolling around in the mud since dawn and will produce a workable solution before the perfectionist has even gotten started. And while the perfectionist needs like a multi-step blueprint for success, verified by no less than 51 experts in the field, the rugged man is willing to get his hands dirty and learn from actual experience. The perfectionist expects to ship a masterpiece from day one and subsequently never completes anything, but the rugged man liberally applies spit shine, elbow grease, and brow sweat to iteratively polish his output into a work of functional beauty. And the reason why the rugged man can do all of this is because he realizes that he has his own inherent dignity. He has a foundational sense of his own worth that frees him up to make mistakes and do imperfect things. And it's this freedom that ultimately allows him to create the best things as quickly as possible. So where the perfectionist is focused on slow, clean, and pretty, the rugged man is focused on quick, dirty, and ugly. So hopefully you capture the spirit of this distinction, but let's make it more concrete and we'll go through each point. We'll start things off by looking at quick. All right. The rugged man gets moving quickly, but not haphazardly. You see, ruggedness is the path of rapid iteration. The key to moving quickly requires that you pick the smallest target that moves you toward your goal. So, if you're sketching a face, all right, what do you start with? A circle. Everybody can make a circle. You can do it really fast. Boom, I just did one. It was really ugly. And guess what? I could probably slow down and make it a little better this time. Oh, yeah, look at that. And I can add like a little detail to it. And then if I just keep each step iterating, and doing it quickly, small steps at a time, eventually you can end up at a finished product. In engineering, we call this idea of rapid iteration, it starts with the MVP, or minimum viable product. The idea is that you build the most basic yet directionally correct prototype, and you get it rolling as quickly as you can, and then you just refine things in future iterations. And this quickness, well, it's always kind of relative to whatever your goal is, okay? Like if you're looking to start a blog, you don't need to take 3 months on your first post. You could literally publish your first one on a small point today, okay? If you're looking to build a rocket, however, okay, you're gonna have to take a little while longer, right? It might take some months or some years. I don't really know anything about building rockets, but I imagine it's faster than one day. But the idea is that you don't wanna take any longer than necessary to make your first meaningful launch. You can define meaningful as something that actually will provide you with a useful building block that you can then iterate further upon. All right. So if it's something that you can't build on, then it's not meaningful enough. And sometimes that reaching that level of meaningfulness is going to change. Sometimes it's going to be something super fast. Sometimes it's still going to take maybe weeks or months of effort, but you still want to aim for that minimum viable product to get started, that core little thing that you can get out as quick as possible while still getting the job done. Okay. And by keeping that scope small, especially in the beginning, it allows you to move quickly and build momentum for bigger wins over time. So for example, all right, like this is like one of the things I've seen in my own personal life in a massive way. My first course on quitting porn that I think I made back in 2014, like I was very perfectionistic about it. It took me almost a year to create it. I agonized for countless hours on it, trying to revise it, make it better and better and better, never ready to ship it. In contrast, my most recent and best program, Frontline Man, okay, like when I first launched that thing, it came out initially as a pilot program, and I sent it to just a small group of guys via Telegram, and I did this before I even created the content. Like I had a rough outline, but I literally wrote and released the final content week to week as I went through it live. And so I was done in a few weeks. And now since this launch was quick and small, even if it hadn't worked out, I would have been fine. In fact, prior to this, I had launched other smaller programs with varying levels of success that all gave me important feedback that allowed me to ultimately make this one that really clicked. And was it perfect on first go around? No, but it actually turned out great. Not only was it extremely useful to the guys who went through it, it was also incredibly useful to me as the creator because it so quickly validated which ideas were powerful, which ones weren't, what processes worked, which ones didn't, and I was able to optimize it and polish things up in real time, instead of taking years to do. Now, after about a year of launching that program, it's gone through multiple iterations and refinement, and that core program that I launched very rapidly is now hands down the most polished and successful program I've ever been a part of producing. And speaking of this Frontline Man program, it doesn't matter how rugged you are if your productivity keeps getting disrupted by bad habits of escapism, like porn, video games, scrolling, or other time-wasting activities. If you struggle with these kinds of things, then you'll want to check out my new free Frontline Man training on the smoothest and most effective ways to eliminate these bad habits so that you can start unleashing your potential in life. And for the record, the concepts that you will find in this training are ones that I've been ruggedly iterating on and refining for over a decade, and I'm confident that they will be game changers for you. So you can watch it now by simply clicking the link in the description. Anyway, that was the rugged power of quick. Now, on to dirty. By dirty, I'm referring to a tolerance for messiness and a lack of refinement to your process. All right, it's about not preemptively over-optimizing. Okay, it's about finding and fixing bottlenecks after they appear. So in particular, this means having a tolerance for doing things with less than maximum efficiency so that you can expedite results. Perfectionists, they like to have a totally clear template full of checklists that guarantee they're following all the best practices. They spend more time optimizing, preparing, and fiddling with dashboards, to-do lists, and vision boards than actually getting stuff done. However, the rugged man understands that you cannot properly refine a process until you start the process. And the reason for this is because you cannot understand the nature and scope of a task until you're knee deep in it. Even if you're being guided by experts who know what they're doing, there's a chance that their systems might not work perfectly for you. And the biggest downfall of all of this pre-optimizing and trying to make things so clean is that you might end up wasting tons of time and energy working on polishing up something that you don't even need. I remember I did this constantly when I first started working for myself. I would agonize over getting this business logo perfect or a professional headshot done just right, only to literally never even use those things, because once I started taking action, I realized that they weren't even necessary. They didn't even matter that much. I just ended up wasting a bunch of time because I was pre-optimizing. So if you wish to be highly productive, then you must be willing to roll around in the mud and get dirty. And this isn't to say that you should totally ignore optimization. It's just a different attitude toward optimization. Basically, you embrace the mess and see it as a signal that indicates where you should optimize on your next iteration. You do an iteration of something quick and dirty. You take note of where the friction, the bottlenecks are, and then you identify another quick and dirty way to somewhat reduce those sticking points and crank out another rep that's of higher quality than the last one. And that is the rugged way to developing an extremely polished workflow over time. So we've talked about quick, we've talked about dirty, and now we're talking about ugly. All right, this is our final point here. Ugliness refers to lowering your standards for your outputs so that you can move more rapidly through iterations. And this is insanely powerful, especially when you understand Peter Thiel's concept of going from 0 to 1. Okay? The idea is that the most important shifts are when something isn't happening. When something's not happening, you say, hey, that thing's at 0. Okay? But once it starts to happen, oh, what do you know? We're at a 1. Even if 1 is far less than 100 or a million, okay, that's the biggest shift. That's the hardest shift, getting over here. And once you're at 1, well, getting to n, which could be, 2 through, infinity, okay, representing the score of progress, that's so much easier once you've got something. And anyone who's ever done any sort of artistic work knows this. It's once you've got something on the page, once you got something there, you can refine it. And by aiming for ugly instead of pretty, this lets the process go way faster with far less anxiety, because the goal is to do something, just spit it out, just get something there. It's allowed to be ugly. In fact, sometimes you need to intentionally aim for it to be ugly just to get past that fear and resistance. So for example, okay, imagine you're a guy who wants to find a girlfriend. Every relationship with a girl you haven't talked to yet is at a 0. Because you haven't talked to them. There's no relationship there. The perfectionistic guy will sit and agonize over what they should say to this woman that they're interested in, how they should approach them. And, sometimes guys will even invest months of time and thousands of dollars into studying pickup strategies before they even say hello. Okay. The rugged guy, though, he just walks over and introduces himself. That guy ruggedly just went from 0 to 1. Right? Now he has some kind of interaction with this woman. Maybe he gaffes or freezes or whatever, but guess what? He's in the game. And once you're in the game, well, then you have at least got a chance to make things go further. All right. But as long as you're at 0, you don't even have a prayer. And the same thing goes with working out. Okay. So let's say your level of exercise, it's at a 0. You're not doing anything. Well, you could spend a few weeks researching an optimal beginner's gym routine and trying to build the motivation to get started. Or you could just wing it and start doing a few scattered sets of air squats and push-ups followed by a 5-minute jog or whatever the heck else you come up with. And from the perspective of a fitness trainer, this is a very ugly workout. But from the perspective of someone whose exercise is at 0, guess what? You just moved to 1, which makes leveling it up further far easier and more likely. Embracing the ugly is incredibly important, particularly when you're doing anything that requires creative effort. Additionally, embracing the ugly is incredibly important for any creative effort as well. It's, the main sentiment behind Hemingway's famous write drunk, edit sober quote. Just get something on the page and then make it better later. And that's the philosophy that I followed when I first started this YouTube channel. You can go back and look at my first videos, or, maybe don't. They're, for me at least, kind of hard to look at now. But the only reason I'm at this point in my ability to produce content now is because I gave myself permission to make ugly yet directionally correct progress. And even now, hundreds of videos later, I'm still playing that same game. All right, and it's still how I'm going to get better. Like, for example, all right, this video is my first iteration where I'm trying a new content production methodology that allows me to make a main post like this, and then I can break it down in a lot of smaller pieces of cross-platform micro content, whatever. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I'm trying something new. And I'm confident that the rollout with this is going to be less than perfectly smooth. It's going to be ugly, and that's what I'm aiming for. And I'll just make it prettier as I go. And that's really the heart of ruggedness. It's about meeting things right now, where you are with your current capabilities and still taking action. Let go of the perfectionism, man. All right, you got to understand that you're good regardless. It doesn't matter if something gets screwed up. And you can just trust yourself to improve over time. And we'll get more and more into the tactical stuff as we move forward in this series. But without this foundational mindset of ruggedness, you're resigning yourself to a slow, agonizing, and unproductive life where your dreams will go unrealized. So anyway, I hope this video has inspired you, and I would love for you to let me know in the comments below what you're going to start doing in a quick, dirty, and ugly fashion. And if any part of that plan requires you to eliminate distracting habits like porn, gaming, scrolling, or any other kind of dysfunctional escapism, don't forget to grab the free training in the description where I could potentially save you years of trial and error in terms of figuring out how to get rid of this stuff and get focused, motivated, and on point. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and also turn on notifications so that you don't miss future episodes in this series. All right, guys, I'll see you on the front lines. Ooh, yeah.